BookTube. This is my weekly wrap-up.
I got my ticket for the long way round. 2 bottle whiskey for the way.
This week was the week of the arc for me. I read 6 books. One of those was a novella, and 5 of those, including the novella, were arcs. Those were sent to me by NetGalley, and I wanted to get them read because the books are coming out relatively soon. So I will start with the book that was not an arc, and that was an audiobook. It was the sequel to Let the Sky Fall. It's called Let the Storm Break, and it's by Shannon Messenger. It is part of the Skyfall trilogy. And this was really good. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It's about sylphs who can control the wind. The 2 main characters are Audra and Vane, and we get all the basic premise established in the first book. So this picks up with them. They have a romance going on, and there are things that come between them. There are problems both outside their romance and within their romance that make things complicated, and beyond that, you have all this great adventure going on and the big bad guy against everybody else. I was not overly impressed with the story. I liked the story a lot. I felt like it brought a lot of new elements from the first book and really expanded on those. I feel like there was a lot of character growth and development. There were some new characters that were brought in that were thoroughly enjoyable. They added to the story. The story was well paced, but what did make it amazing and pushed it right over the top for me was simply the way that Shannon Messenger was able to take this plot and create tension and then loosen it up, and then create tension again and loosen it up. And I think that might be off-putting to some people, but I didn't find it that way at all. I suppose you could, if you weren't entertained by this book, you might think it was anticlimactic. But not for me. I thought the push-pull of the whole plot and the whole emotional thing that she had going on, it worked really well. Now, I think a lot of authors probably can't do that, but she did it amazingly. And it was that thing that pushed it over the top enough for me to give this 5 stars. Now, the other thing that pushed it over the edge was the narration. This is done by Kristen Lee, from Audra's perspective, and then from Vane's perspective, it was Nick Podell. Kristen Lee is very good. Because I listen to books so often, I have things I really do expect from narrators, and one of those is a lot of expression. When they're yelling, I expect them to yell, not whisper, and I think she did a little of that. But Nick Podell was amazing. He is amazing anyway. I've listened to him narrate books before, but the voice that he gave to Vane tends to be kind of sarcastic and very funny, and the way that Nick voiced him was perfect. Just nailed it. So, you know, anytime that's happening, that makes the book even better. So the emotional investment that was created by the tension and Nick Podell's narration, those both, they pushed it over the edge to make it a 5-star book for me. So I definitely gave it 5 stars, and I would highly recommend that if you're looking for a new, fresh take on a supernatural character with a lot of action in the story, yeah, definitely check that one out. Moving on to the arcs. The first one I read was called Divided, and that's by Elsie Chapman. Divided is the sequel to Dueled, and this is a duology, Dueled. And that was a dystopian, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's about a society where everyone has a twin, and between the ages of 13 and 18, you get activated to kill your twin. Your twin is called your alt, and only one of you survives, and the idea within the society is to control the population growth by kind of creating a survival of the fittest situation. So our main character is West Grayson. In the first book, she has survived and killed her alt, and in order to learn how to do it, to be trained, she became an assassin, because in this society, you can, if you have enough money, you can hire someone to kill your alt for you, and they're called strikers. So she has a history of that, and she has a lot of inner conflict going on because of that. She's involved romantically with her brother's best friend. Her brother is now dead, but she has a lot of trust issues with him. His name is Cord. But the way this character is able to think through logically a situation, like she'll be looking at a situation and be able to judge what the other character is going to do, how they're going to respond to her, especially in battle situations. And that was so entertaining. I love a good dystopian with a lot of action, and this one definitely has it. I gave this book 5 stars. I think it earned every one of those stars. And if you're looking for a duology, not a trilogy, so it's not a big series that you have to tackle, this is a great one, and I would highly recommend it. I then switched from dystopian to a bit of time travel, because I love time travel. This was called Forever Layla, and it is by Melissa Turner Lee. And it's all about David Foster and Layla. Layla is a woman who appears in David's life while he is working as a sound engineer for his band. They're all teenagers, still in high school. I think he's 17. And this woman walks up to him, and she's beautiful, and she's 24, and she won't tell him her name. So when Eric Clapton's Layla comes on when the band is taking a break, he just calls her that. Well, she freaks out and runs away, and he goes after her, and they form this relationship. And slowly it becomes apparent that she has traveled back in time. And she doesn't want to tell him too much because she's afraid she'll change things. But the story then becomes all about how this circular thing happens in terms of time travel. Is going back going to change anything, or was she always supposed to go back for things to happen? And at least that held my interest. The relationship that develops between the two of them is a little bit unrealistic. I think the author tried to maintain some sense of realism there, but I don't think things would have realistically worked out the way they did in the book. So for that reason, I gave it 3 stars. I still liked it a lot, and I think when it does come out, it will probably get some measure of success. There are a lot of people that are going to really like this book, and I enjoyed it. But yeah, I thought it was pretty average in terms of time travel, so yeah, 3 stars. From there, I had myself a bit of Katie McGarry. If you know anything about contemporary YA, you know Katie McGarry's name from the Pushing the Limits series. I was able to get a hold of Take Me On, which is the 4th book in this series, and it was really good. I think this woman can do YA contemporary really well. And in this book, it's all about kickboxing and MMA, which is mixed martial arts fighting, like cage fighting. Really, really fascinating. Haley is our main character. She is a kickboxer, and her grandfather runs a gym, and she was a national title holder, and she walked away from that to train at her boyfriend's gym, and some bad things happen, and she's unable to reconcile with her grandfather. This guy in a truck nearly runs her down, and he kind of goes to defend her honor, and then she has to teach him how to do that. So nice change up there. I really appreciated that. And Katie McGarry is able to do this really, really well. I really thought the way that she developed the characters was excellent. The way that she handled the whole arena of kickboxing and MMA was wonderful. I felt like I got a real education about that. And the story, as it evolved, happened very naturally, and the plot moved along really well. I really liked the characters, so I really enjoyed this one. I think it was predictably and dependably Katie McGarry good. She can write 10 more books in this series, and I think I'm probably going to read every one. I highly recommend this series, especially if you like YA contemporary. Now, tacked on to the end of Take Me On was something called Crossing the Line, which is book 1.5, and it picks up with 2 of the secondary characters. It was very quick, but it didn't really feel rushed, and I really enjoyed it. It was about 2 characters who have been pen pals, really, truly snail mail pen pals. There's a conflict that happens, and it needs to be resolved, and it's done so beautifully. It's done so quickly, because this is a novella, but I really enjoyed it. Again, typical Katie McGarry, done extremely well. I gave both of these books 4 stars. The last book I read as an ARC was called Before He Was Famous. This is by Becky Wicks, and it is the first in the Hot Flush series. It's new adult contemporary romance, and yeah, this is not a winner for me. The book is all about Chloe and Noah, and it is set against the backdrop of a show like American Idol. Noah is a guitar player, a singer, and he wins. And he and Chloe were childhood friends. They've grown up together. They've been through a lot together, and their relationship is starting to change. And there's a lot of up and down. There are some secondary characters thrown in, which are not necessary, really. There's a whole subplot which is totally unnecessary. The whole thing really could have just revolved around their relationship and the challenges that they're facing as they're trying to deal with this whole PR thing. That would have been fine, but no. This is a self-published book, and I have a lot of problems with it because I think it suffers from what a lot of self-published books suffer from, and that is a lack of good editing. And I don't mean grammatical errors. I'm talking about story flow and the way things happen within the plot. She uses a lot of British terminology, but the characters are set in the U.S. So there were these terms were thrown out there, and I would stop and think, what? Wait, figure it out within the context. But these are not terms that we commonly use in America. And because the characters were Americans, the book is set in Colorado and New York. What in the heck? It's like, wait a minute. All she would have had to do to fix this was set it in the UK. But she didn't. She set it in the States, and so there was a problem there. And then we have a secondary character who is the manager for Noah, and he's British, but he starts throwing out all this rhyming slang. Didn't make any sense at all. Didn't make much sense to the characters, and a lot of it had to be explained. So, you know what? Unnecessary. Just didn't need that. It was completely, why. I almost felt like this author read a book about how to write a book and then wrote a book and then self-published it. And it was, it just was so lacking. I will not be continuing with the series. I hope that there are people that enjoy the book, enjoy the story, because this had so much potential to be good, and it just fell flat. Flat like faceplant flat. It was bad. I gave that book 1 star, and I was really being generous. So that was my week. I am going to pull a book out of my TBR jar. Let's see what that is. See. I have that's one. Broken Wings by Shannon Ditmore. Broken Wings is the second book in what is, I'm pretty sure, a trilogy. I think all 3 books are out. The first book is Angel Eyes. So what I'll do is go ahead and read Angel Eyes, and then I'll read Broken Wings this week. And I will knock 2 off my TBR shelf. This week is BEA, and that's Book Expo America. I know a lot of booktubers are going, and I'm so jealous. I would love to go to that. I can't imagine the exhibitors hall, just the books alone. Oh my gosh. So I am really looking forward to the updates that we get from all the booktubers who are going to that. So that's it for now from me. I will see you on Friday with Friday Reads. And so have a great week, and thank you as always for watching.
When I'm gone, you're gonna miss me when I'm gone. You're gonna miss me by my walk. You're gonna miss me by my taco. You're gonna miss me when I'm gone.